Hello, this is a V2000 format videocassette, reversible, and this is a machine I was working on some weeks ago, a VR2324, and there's a wire hanging out the front because that is used to activate a test mode that sends out a particular waveform to the dynamic track following circuits, because these machines can do trick functions and they adjust the angle of the heads using piezoelectric actuators. But I got to a point where I realised there was a fault in the DTF circuitry on this machine, and it kind of got to the point that it didn't matter which component had failed on that board, because whichever one it was not going to be available anyway. So that was stalled, and the other problem with these machines is that parts tend not to be interchangeable between models that have been made at different times. Philips did a lot of continuous revision of their manufacturing process, especially with these. Oh well. This was donated to me. Another VR2324. So initially I thought maybe I could do some part swapping, but in all probability nothing will be compatible. Let's work on this as it is. The first thing I'll have to deal with is the mains filter capacitors, because if I just connect this to mains they will almost certainly explode in a big cloud of smelly smoke. It's dangerous and too exciting for me. So we'll start there and then see if this machine has any life in it. Let's get stuck in. Let's start by taking the lid off. Cosmetically this one's not quite as pretty as the other one, but that's not so important right now. Yeah, there's a lot more dirt and dust in this one, it's not so pretty. I have to get to this component here, and that means taking quite a lot out. Unfortunately, you can't really access this with this in situ. It appears that I probably didn't need to worry about the filter capacitor exploding because it's exploded already. So there it was, 0.056 microfarad I think that was, but anything will be satisfactory. Let me find a proper safety rated component to put in there. Okay, so the original was 0.056, we're going to be fitting a 0.22, but that will be absolutely fine. I'll just check that the small inductors have not succumbed. Though it's entirely possible I'll end up taking all this apart again, I've refitted the screws just to keep everything together, because these machines can fall apart a bit. Okay, so we'll power it up and just see if we get anything at all. Bearing in mind how unreliable these machines are, this is not going to work, but let's see what we can get. Power up, see if we get clock. I can hear motor spinning. No clock display. So that might be a reset problem. Now I have changed the battery in the clock of my other one. So if the clock assembly is interchangeable between the two, I will fit that one on here, because that eliminates all the front panel electronics, because that was working on the other one. Right, here's the front panel from the other machine, which I know works. This is my modification to add a special reset test sequence for the DTF, but I'm going to take that off. You have to short a particular pin to ground. I'm going to take that off for the time being. So let's fit this and see if it makes any difference at all. I'm sure it'll have many other faults, but just sort out the front panel because it's something I can do. And there's a reasonable chance that these parts are interchangeable, whereas many of the other parts in here will not be between the two machines. Okay, let's see if we get any display this time. It's exactly the same. So whatever's wrong with the front panel on that one, it's not the front panel. Quite likely to be a power supply issue, I would say. We'll better check the power supply lines. But also, I remember previously that there's a transistor here and if that doesn't make good contact, it messes things up. So I'll make sure that that's making good contact. It's here where they've mounted a transistor to the metalwork as a heatsink, and I had trouble with the connector on that on the other machine, I think. Another thing, an obvious thing to do, is just go through and check these fuses. Okay, the N2 fuses are blown, and I've had that before, haven't I? On the other machine I had that issue. Right, I think what tends to happen is if one of these fuses blows, the other one goes out with it. And there's supposed to be time delay, but one's been changed for a fast blow. So let's change those fuses and just see if that makes a difference. Okay, just for now I've fitted 1 amp anti-surge rather than 1.25. Just happens to be what I have to hand. Let's see what happens when I power it up. That's a lot better. And gonna close. I think we press one of the function keys to close. That looks promising. Let's pop a tape in. Fast forward. Rewind. Press play. Stop. Oh wow, let's connect the monitor to it. I'll just power it down while I do that. Okay, let's try playing a tape. Worked a moment ago. Come on then. Oh, a moment ago it went into play. Okay, let's check those fuses again. They're fine, good. It's a bit suspicious that seconds ago it all worked and now it doesn't. I'm leaving this front panel on because this has got the known good battery in it. Remembered the time. Oh look, mechanism's working. Press play. Oh. No picture, and it shuts down. Seems a little bit random, doesn't it? It could be the switch assembly is playing up on the bottom of the, what amounts to a mode switch on the bottom of the deck. I want to see if the Capstan is running, but I don't think I can see the tape through all this. This is going to fast forward. I'll try picture search. All hints of picture. Might just have dirty heads. Let's see if we can go into play now. Oh look, that was definitely a picture. Is there any sound? Well no, but the TV might be refusing to do it because of sync issues. Looks like it's having dynamic track following problems, just like the other one. Though, nowhere near as bad. We have sound. You know, if it's any other format, I would say that that's a tape path problem. Oh, the sound is coming in, which is slightly strange. It's almost like capacitors are reforming, isn't it? The sound isn't very good, such as there is sound. It sounds a little bit slightly distorted. Let's try freeze frame. Not so good. Reverse picture search. That's really quite promising in places. Back to play. Oh, that's getting a little better possibly. Try for picture freeze frame again. Odd that that's so poor. I might just leave it running for a while, albeit attended because something might blow up, but I'll leave it running for a while because it is steadily improving. This actually seems to be working. Part of the problem, I think, with the previous attempt was the state the tape is in. It's got some creases on it. That is looking promising. Well, after some testing, we've unfortunately come to a bit of a problem. We seem to be having tracking problems, maybe DTF problems, or maybe Capstan servo problems. The last thing I needed to see on one of these machines, because that's the trouble we have with the other one. So, not having much luck with VR2324s, are we? I'll keep running it for a while in case it clears itself up. Well, it looks quite promising now. Freeze frame is much better than it was earlier, and so is picture search. Forward picture search. Back to freeze frame. All looking quite hopeful. So clearly the DTF circuits are working in here, but when I press play now, it seems to be struggling to maintain Capstan servo. Oh, what a nuisance. So we have another problem with the V2000 machine, and as we've already discovered, that's extremely hard to work on. Almost any part you need you can't get, and they're really complex, so it may not be fixable. So I've been having two problems with this machine, and I'd almost given up on it, but decided to spend a little bit of time on this last night. So I've taken the screening cans off the deck, pulled the deck out, taken the screening cans off, which is no fun because you've got these awful little connectors here which go to the side of the cassette mechanism. Horrible thing. And it occurred to me that there's a particular adjustment which actually changes a frequency, but it's kind of the default speed that the Capstan will run at, and it seemed to be erratic. Sometimes it would work and other times it wouldn't, and when it didn't work in play, it didn't also work in picture search, which was a clue because the same frequency is used for both, or divisions of the same frequency. So the adjustment for that is this one here. I marked up where it was, made a small adjustment, made no difference, tweaked it some more, and then suddenly it all worked. And I put the adjustment back to where it came from, and it still worked. So maybe it was a slightly rubbish bit of grot on the adjustment there. Now the problem I've got is that sometimes when you first load the tape, you get this effect where there's a big chunk of the picture missing. The tracking's working. Oh, okay, it's hit a head clog. But the tracking's working, but we've got this chunk missing. And I think what's going on there is it's a bit of a tape path fault. And I'd noticed earlier on that at one point it did that and it went clunk and it stopped doing that. I don't think it wants to be upside down. I think the right way round, the tape needs to sit down better. So let's flip it over. I'll power it down first. Flip it back over and see if we can get it to work the right way up. So it may just be that the tape's not sitting down properly. Or it could be that the thing that passes for a mode switch in here is not driving it properly, which is somewhere in this bridge assembly, I think. Right, okay. No, it isn't. There's a mode switch underneath. It's underneath the mode switch. May not be fully getting the deck into the correct position. So I've switched it off in the laced up condition so I can check that everything looks right. And it does look right. I'm not seeing anything wrong. Pinch roller, Capstan. The guides are in place properly. fairly good picture search. And now the picture's playing. Just getting into picture search and back seems to cure the problem. Let's do forward picture search. I mean, that is what's great about V2000. Gorgeous picture search. And freeze frame. All that's working. So we just seem to have this slight mechanism problem that when you first load a tape you have to go through picture search or something a couple of times. So maybe I'll have a quick look at the switch underneath, see if we can access that, and just clean it up a little. Right, there you go. That's the set of contacts that tells the machine where it is. So I'll just give that a quick clean with some deoxit. Trying to disturb as little as possible. We are talking V2000 here. Okay, let's try it again. Well, it hasn't immediately solved that problem, but just go through picture search. And then it's okay. So maybe more a case of the tape is needs to settle on the deck. So perhaps I need to clean the tape path a little bit more. Okay, I've cleaned especially the lower edge of the lower drum, which, if the tape sits on grot, could cause it to not be in exactly the correct position. Still not there. But reverse picture search for a moment. Maybe we'll just have to select reverse picture search for a few seconds when we've loaded the tape in this machine. It might clean itself up anyway, but it's otherwise looking very good. I've got to reassemble this horrible screening can now and do some more testing on it. Okay, let's test it again. Oops. I haven't reassembled that bit yet. So it's doing that strange thing, and then I do a bit of picture search, and it straightens out. And now we've lost tracking again. So we've got to do all that again, take the deck out and try to find out why we're getting this intermittent loss of Capstan servo. Maybe it's a dry joint. So I'll start by testing it just like this. Right, we still have that Capstan servo loss. We have to take the screening can off again, which is really unpleasant. Didn't catch it on video last time, so you get to see this anyway. So there's screw each side there. Top can off, then take these horrible things off. One of these was missing already when I got to it, so it's pretty likely this machine's been worked on before. Also, the screws that hold the deck in, one of them was chewed, so he's obviously had attention. Okay, just try it without the screening can for a moment. No, still have the Capstan problem. I'm going to look around here for dry joints, I think, because it's behaving a bit dry jointy. So I've done a lot of resoldering on that board. There were quite a lot of joints which looked really quite suspicious. So I'm hoping that I have resolved the problem in one of those dry joints. I'm going to reassemble the screening can and see if it still works. Okay, with the exception of having to use reverse picture search for a moment before selecting play, this machine seems to be working quite well. I'm just going to change those fuses for the 1.25 amp ones I'll raid out of the other VR2324 I have, and then reassemble it, but I think I'll reassemble it with the cabinet work from the other one, and then I'll talk to you about a little upgrade I want to do later. In case you hadn't seen my previous video on this, this is where I replaced the rechargeable battery on the clock timer board. So this one has a reasonable cell in there, even if it's not exactly the right size as the original one. So we apparently have a working machine, though I'm not absolutely convinced that we've entirely resolved that mistracking problem. But it isn't doing it now, is it? We also have that problem that we have to hit reverse picture search to get it to play. So that's not ideal, but other than that it is working. But let me show you what I'd like to do with it in due course. This is the tuner timer board that originally came off that machine, and there's the battery. That's the reason I've fitted that one. But there's a big empty gap here and a sort of a blank at the front. So what that's all about is there's a version of this with remote control. That looks like the same receiver as is used on the portables, VR2320, and I have some scrap ones of those. So I could fit the remote control receiver from one of the scrap portables into here. And I believe then there's a link somewhere you have to make. And that is playing up, isn't it? Such a shame, because cosmetically now it's absolutely gorgeous. And when it does work properly, it works really well. I'll have to take the deck out again and look at the signal which comes from the dynamic track following circuit, which drives the Capstan motor system. Presumably the voltage is drifting around on there and I'll have to chase it back. The problem could be, of course, that if it goes back into the dynamic track following circuits, we're nowhere, because the other machine has also got defective dynamic track following circuits. Different sort of effect you're seeing on that one, but in the end, if the DTF isn't working and we can't get a replacement CPU part, which does fail apparently, then this is going to be as broken as the other one. Oh dear. I have to say, though they look very smart, these VR2324 machines and the similar ones, I wouldn't touch one with a barge pole. If you go back to the 80s and say, you know, would I like to buy this video recorder? Absolutely not. Terrible reliability problems. One thing that had been mentioned on a previous video for the 2324 is generally problems with dynamic track following, which it sort of is connected to, can be caused by contamination of the slip rings under this bridge assembly. You can take it off and clean the slip rings. I don't think it's that, because the freeze frame is perfect, but let's cover it off. So I'll eject the tape. There are apparently two versions of this. These older ones have got the black bridge assembly and the later ones have a white one, and I think there's several screws to undo. Let's just see if that's made any difference at all. That's working, though I can hear a slight audio flutter, but it's nothing like it was earlier. So I think we'll just leave that running for a minute and see what happens. While I've got better access to this, I've been cleaning a few parts of the tape deck, and I believe that maybe it's not doing that thing where I have to keep pressing picture search. It's going straight into play. We've gone for a head clog, so that's annoying. If that's clear. No, we've lost Capstan servo lock again. Right, we need to look at some of the signals around the Capstan drive circuit. In particular, on this thick film circuit, there should be, between pins 10 and 15, there should be a 12 microsecond signal there. Well, it's actually 85220 Hertz it should be, and that's what is adjusted by the preset that I looked at the other day. So let's get to that with an oscilloscope. Okay, so we should have this 12 microsecond period on here, and we have, but it's wandering around. You can see it's changing frequency. I doubt you can read that, but it's 11 point something to 12 point something microseconds on there. Bit inconclusive. We've got a 3.7 volt signal we should have on the output of one of the thick film circuits, and it's obviously the Capstan drive. If I stop the tape, it goes to 0, press play, and when it is 3.7 we get a good picture, and when it's jumping around all over the place, especially going higher voltage, we have tracking problems. Reverse picture search. I would have thought it'd be a different voltage altogether in reverse, but it seems to be, I don't know how that works, but okay. Freeze frame, that looks right, but hit play. See, it goes high and it mistracks. When it goes to 3.7, the servo system's locking in. This is all quite similar to the problems we've got on the other one, isn't it? If you remember my video about the previous VR2324, it had much the same problem. Freeze frame it, all's well, press play, and when it's around 3.7 volts it's working, and when it suddenly leaps high, then tracking is lost. And freeze frame is fine. So let's look at, that's on pin 9, let's look on pin 10, that should be supply voltage of 10 volts, let's just confirm that's okay. Sorry, supply voltage is 5 volts, there you go, when it's in drive mode, which it is now. We have a tacho coming back in on pin 1, let's have a look at the voltages or signals we see on that. A couple hundred millivolts of noisiness really. If I hit pause, does it stop? More or less. That's a much bigger signal when we're in picture search, look at that. So what we seem to have here is a phase lock loop between the square wave that's coming in from a frequency generator, which in turn picks up a signal from the auto tracking system from DTF, and the square wave that's coming in off the tacho, and with Capstan tacho, and we've looked at both of those square waves at the amplified points here, and they both look sensible. So let's have a look at the output of this comparator, which is supposed to give a voltage which will speed up and slow down the Capstan servo and keep it locked. And when it's working, we're seeing a waveform here which is obviously the 3.7 volts or thereabouts. It does read, it's about 2 volts per version, so it's reading around about 4 volts as it controls the speed of the Capstan servo. Let's go on to a better bit of tape. Right, just recovering from that head clog. So there's that control signal, and it's looking quite sensible. But I believe that that signal goes completely mad when it starts to lose the lock. I'm going to try cooling the 1551, which is doing the supplying this signal, and see if that goes wrong. That signal then drives 1552, which is another thick film unit in the middle of the board, so that is another possible cause. But let's try cooling it, see if it makes a difference. No difference yet. We'll try warming it a bit. No difference yet. We may have to try doing the same to the hybrid in the middle, but the trouble is that's extremely hard to get to. you know, it's playing well now, and it's one of those things that when you want it to break down, it doesn't. So let me show you the scope. We're getting what I think you should see here, which is some wiggly voltages around about the sort of 4-volt area, which are as the servo system adjusts the voltage to keep the tracking correct. What I saw yesterday, when it was, I think, in danger of losing sync, it was possibly doing the audio warble, is that was fluctuating around a lot, and occasionally I was getting pulses in it, as though it was seeing the pulses from these square waves that were somehow finishing up on the output there. So, is that as a result of it losing sync, or is it as a result of a defect in this thin film circuit? The output thin film circuit here, which is an amplifier to the motor, could also be at fault. Either of these could be at fault, or the incoming signal, which is on this line here, number 49 I think it is, which comes in here, that could be at fault. But actually I don't believe it is on this machine. The other machine, the other VR2324, I think that could well be the problem. But here I think we're seeing a problem in one of these, but it's playing well. I've only just realised, you know, after all these years, that they actually do eat the cow in the end. I'd never noticed that in all these decades, so that's fun. Right, I'd never noticed that. So I'll think I'll reassemble this, because really I need this fault to reoccur, and we'll work further on this problem. It may be that one of the scrap VR2220s has the correct thick film circuits. Maybe I could just swap them anyway, both of them. They won't be easy to change, but maybe we'll do that. But right now, I've been testing the machine for some time, and it just, of course, refuses to go wrong now. Here we are sometime later. The machine still seems to be working, but if we look at the scope, we can see these ugly pulses, which I think are the start of it starting to struggle to lose, to keep the Capstan servo. I think I might try cooling the 1551 and maybe even the 1552, which is the motor driver hybrid circuit, if I can get to it. It's so awkward, that one. Let me try a bit of freezer. So as I try to cool the hybrid, which is the 1551, let's see if those pulses go away. I don't think so. Give it a moment. No. Well, let's see if I can get to the 1552 in the middle of the board. Right, I'm running low on freezer, so I'm going to do air duster upside down. It's certainly not helping. It might be making it worse. No, well, no real difference. But it's actually still playing. I'll leave it playing some more. Monitoring that output from the 1551 right on and off now for some hours. I've been running this machine with the oscilloscope connected up, looking at the signal from the output of the 1551 thick film unit to the 1552, which goes on to drive the Capstan motor. And apart from seeing some small negative going spikes occasionally, and I mean occasionally, for the most part I've had a sensible looking signal like this, which is just the servo system working properly. So I think I'm going to try something. Of course, there's capacitance associated with the oscilloscope probe, so I'm going to add a few hundred picofarads capacitance from that signal to ground, and see if it continues to work reliably. And if it does, I'm going to reassemble it and see if it's okay at that point. If it acts up again, I'm going to say it's one of those thick film units, and maybe I'll just replace them both if I can find some from scrap VR2220s. If they take the same components, I don't know. So that's my best guess at the moment, because we just don't know what is going on. Oh look, we saw a small negative going pulse then. Look, there's a few. Does that mean we're about to lose Capstan servo? Almost certainly not in this configuration, because I've been testing it like this literally yesterday for hours. Let's do that then. Let's add a small capacitor. So what I've done is fitted 100 picofarads between ground and pin 15 of the 1552, which is the amplifier chip to the Capstan. So let's just see if it is stable now with that capacitor added and the oscilloscope not included. Right, we'll leave that running for a while and see if that behaves. If so, we'll start reassembling. Well, this machine has been working now for many hours, both in its disassembled state and its fully reassembled state. Is it fixed? Well, it's hard to know. I've got the 100 picofarad capacitor between the 1551 output and 1552 input. And that's kind of emulating an oscilloscope probe. But I don't think that was the reason the problem's cured. It may be that my interacting with these two thick film units has done it, by heating them up, cooling them down, soldering and all that, that I've reformed a capacitor that we can't access on one of those thick film units. Maybe one day I'll have to replace them. But right now, it does look good. I mean, the amount of hours it's done must have been running 8-10 hours and hasn't failed at all. So let's just demonstrate it again. Now we have that problem that sometimes I have to select reverse picture search when I first put the tape in. It seems to vary a bit between tapes. This tape does it more than some of the others. So it really is a fairly small problem. I don't know what it's caused by, but it seems to be getting less prevalent anyway. It's a really smart looking machine. I think adding infrared remote control might be a nice upgrade for it. But other than that, I think we've got it now. This has got the cabinet work from the newer or smarter machine, so it looks absolutely stunning, and the performance is as good as V2000 is. That's to say, it's a bit grubby around the edges, which is entirely normal for V2000. Some V2000 proponents went on about how the picture quality was better than Beta. It most certainly was not. V2000 is closer to VHS of its time, 80s VHS. So the picture quality is okay, but certainly nothing like as good as a nice Beta machine. There's a certain amount of grain and edge noise, and that's just typical of the format. Well, today I have a breakdown. It's a Grundig 2x4 Super V2000 video recorder. It's getting fussy about what tapes it plays. Let's have a quick look. I'll put this tape in. And it plays okay. I've already removed this top cover here. That seems okay. Let's try another tape. And it's not playing so well. But if I add a little back tension by putting my finger here on the supply post, the picture cleans up. Let go again, and it starts to break up again. So it's a lack of back tension. Doesn't need much. There are a couple of preset controls here, and the left one there is the back tension control. So adjusting that control seems to be, you can certainly make it worse and make it better. That's not the scientific way to set up the back tension control, but it seems to be getting to the point, and that's now working fine. But I've noticed that after a while it can go wrong again, and no amount of twiddling that control will help. So I'm beginning to suspect a fault on this board, and I'm going to see if I can swap out that board with one from a non-working machine, or one machine I haven't yet repaired. This panel at the back here is the one that these connectors tend to break up on. So it's got connectors on the top and bottom, and they tend to split because the plastic shrinks. Some of these have been glued and repaired already. So it's going to be a little fiddly to change, but let's do that. Here's the board we're going to fit, and the back tension control was that one there. This clunky arrangement is the remote control receiver. You had to pay extra for remote control on this model. Right, here's the bottom of the servo board, and several of these connectors are held together with cable ties and glue. Something to note is there's a blank connector in the middle there, so you don't get distressed that you think you've maybe missed a plug out if you have to change this board. Also, this one's a different type of connector, and it's a lot stiffer to unplug. Perhaps I should have used those instead of these horrible ones that break up. Having unplugged all the wires at the bottom, do the few at the top. Let's remove our suspect board and fit our hopefully better one. Okay, let's try it. Let's hope first and foremost that we've not made anything any worse. We'll start with the tape that we had working. Well, we seem to have lost sound, but it's playing okay, so we'll come back to the sound problem in a moment. Let's now try the tape, which didn't work properly before. No, we still have a lack of back tension, and if I increase the back tension with my finger, it seems happier. So actually it's completely unchanged, apart from the fact we've now lost sound. Let's increase the back tension adjustment on this. Strangely, the controls seem to work the other way around, so I had to turn it the other way to get the back tension to apparently come in good. And why no sound? But that is looking good now. I'll just check and see if I can work out why there's no sound, and then perhaps leave it on test for a while. The sound fault actually is something and nothing. Just a connector issue, so I'll sort that out. A little bit of contact bending. I've made the audio connection more reliable. Really, I'd like to change that socket, but it's part of a block, so it'd be hard to do. Okay, that's working. Let's do some more reassembly. This machine is a bit noisy because the brushes for the DTF head assembly got damaged years ago when the tape got tangled up, and so they are sort of plonked back and noisy. Ideally, I'd like to change the entire assembly there that contains the brushes. If you still have these parts, do fit this. It's a spacer that helps keep the board from touching this metalwork. I've left myself a note there as to which is the back tension control. Let's try the troublesome tape again. This tape seems to be not in the best condition, and I think it's head clogging, but it is actually working. So I hope you've enjoyed us working on these V2000 machines. This has been very time consuming, really hard work, and resulted in something that works, but we can't absolutely say if it's fixed, not at the moment. I'll do plenty more content on other audio and video technology in the near future. Bye for now.